Jeremy Scahill did some incredible investigative reporting in The Intercept about an absolute tragedy in Afghanistan and how the government decided to handle the fallout by covering up their crimes and not accepting responsibility. So he says, an internal Defense Department investigation into one of the most notorious night raids conducted by Special Operations Forces in Afghanistan, in which 7 civilians were killed, including 2 pregnant women, determined that all the U.S. soldiers involved had followed the rules of engagement. As a result, the soldiers faced no disciplinary measures. So they do a night raid, they kill 7 civilians, including 2 pregnant women, and there are no disciplinary measures that happen. They continue, quote, although 2 children were shot during the raid, and multiple witnesses and Afghan investigators alleged that U.S. soldiers dug bullets out of the body of at least one of the dead pregnant women, Defense Department investigators concluded that, quote, the amount of force utilized was necessary, proportional, and applied at appropriate time. Oh, think about that argument that they're making. But we know that that is not true based on what happened. So we have 7 dead civilians, including 2 pregnant women, evidence that they dug bullets out of the body of the women to cover up their crimes. And then they say, well, the force was necessary, proportional, and applied at appropriate time. So if it was necessary and proportional, well, that means that you're saying the dead pregnant women had it coming and the kids who were shot had it coming. That's beyond pathetic that this is what they say and this is how they cover up their crimes. Now, he goes on to explain that this is actually very similar to the Doctors Without Borders bombing in Kunduz, Afghanistan, where the U.S. bombed Doctors Without Borders hospital. 42 people died, all of them civilians. It was sustained bombing when you had people trying to reach out to them saying, stop bombing. We're all civilians in here and doctors. There is no Taliban here. They just kept bombing. Now, in this case, at first, NATO cheered the attack and announced that it was a successful hit on the Taliban. For those of you who don't know how this works, that's just the go-to standard, press release. Whenever the U.S. kills anybody, anywhere, in any of the 7 places we're doing interventions right now, which is literal, by the way, they go, successful hit on the Taliban. Yeah, look at this press release where the people who did the killing are telling us they successfully got the Taliban. Well, they're not biased. I'm sure they don't have a conflict of interest here. So, yeah, report it as if it's factual. And all the bullshit media outlets who don't do fact-checking, they go, oh, yeah, reported, I guess you killed the Taliban. And then everybody pats themselves on the back in the West. Oh, we got the bad guys. Well, it turns out we didn't get the bad guys. Then, when there was evidence that indeed civilians did die, what did they do? If you thought it was low so far, the next step is even lower. They said, well, no, some are saying that it was us that did it, but we see evidence that actually this was a planned honor killing, and it was those damn barbarians in Afghanistan that did this to themselves. They literally tried to spin it and blame it on the families who are the victims of this, the people who survived with now their wives and their kids and other friends dead. They go, well, we could admit it was us, or we could just say, looks like a standard honor killing. Your fault. Okay, so then after that, we learned they kidnapped some of the survivors and interrogated them. Now, in the process of this, they kept them for 3 days. Some of the people didn't eat, and they literally missed the funerals of their wives. It just gets worse and worse. So Jeremy continues here, quote, months later, when I sat with the family elder, Haji Sharabuddin, at his home, his anger seemed only to have hardened. He said, quote, I don't accept their apology. I would not trade my sons for the whole kingdom of the United States, he told me, holding up a picture of his sons. Initially, we were thinking that Americans were the friends of Afghans, but now we think that Americans themselves are terrorists. Americans are our enemy. They bring terror and destruction. Americans not only destroyed my house, they destroyed my family. The Americans unleashed the special forces on us. These special forces, with the long beards, did cruel criminal things. We call them the American Taliban. Now, at a different part in this piece, they go on to explain how this family specifically, they were not only anti-Taliban, they had fought the Taliban, and the Taliban had kidnapped members of their family. So, and there was some cases of just obvious evidence that they had nothing to do with the Taliban, and the U.S. still held on to the line that, no, we did a Taliban raid here well after the fact. Like, for example, some of the men were clean-shaven. Well, that's a telltale sign they're indeed not in the Taliban. Some of them had the standard beards. When you look at their background, I believe they're originally from Tajikistan, is it? So there's 1,000,001 reasons and pieces of evidence that they're not the Taliban, and that they said repeatedly, we hate the Taliban, we have to fight the Taliban. They came and kidnapped some of our people. And what did the U.S. do? This was during the interrogation. They kept them for 3 days. Some of them didn't eat, and they missed the funerals of their wives. And now, again, man, this last part is so powerful because what does it show you? It shows you that you had people who were a natural ally of the U.S., then you did this thing to them. There was no accountability. No accountability, no disciplinary action, nothing. And now you listen to their quotes. Now they're like, no, you are my enemy. And why? Well, you killed my fucking family. You killed my family. I missed the fucking funeral of my wife. You dug the bullets out of my wife to cover up your crime. There was no disciplinary action whatsoever. The entire time you're callous about it. And then what? Now I'm supposed to say, oh, yeah, no, I'm sure you're good people. Look at what you fucking did. Look at what you did. So, this is basically a manual on how to commit war crimes, how to do atrocities, how to become a terrorist yourself, and then in the process, create more terrorists. Create people who are now way more likely to want to attack the United States of America. Congratulations, you did everything wrong every step of the way. Would you call this winning hearts and minds?